Well, g'day everyone and welcome back to the next episode of the Voice of a Veteran podcast. My name is Heston Russell and I'm here with my co-host,
Scotty Evennett.
the man himself. And this time, Scotty, it is going to be an authenticity ambush, mate. You have been through a lot. You know, I have had a lot going on in a very visual way, but behind the scenes, mate, in probably the hardest way, you've had to go through a lot, mate. You know, you've been taken out of action.
Yeah,
but hey, I haven't been taken out of action, and you're not going to talk. I'm going to get this all out first. So, I really want to dive into a lot of what you've been going through at a personal and emotional level. And I haven't prepared Scotty with any notes prior to this one. He doesn't know what I'm going to ask him. So we are looking forward to this. This is where it's all about, mate. Tell us what's happened, Scotty. Tell me about your injury, mate.
Well, I think just going off your eyes, moving back down towards my leg, you're talking about this key injury, and I think it's so important for everyone, but it's important for myself because it's attached to my identity. Yeah. Right. I hold myself in the fitness and health world. It is something I do on a daily basis. I help people get to that point, coach them through physical and mental health. So being taken out of the action, not being able to demonstrate, not being able to move forward in my own business because I still required to create social media content, marketing, building an app in the back end that needs all of my fitness videos, for example, all that's had to come to a halt.
Yeah. So can we are we allowed to talk about what you were doing when it happened?
Not in detail, but I can definitely say that we were on set filming for a television show that's coming out early next year.
So to help set the picture, Scotty Evennett, the man himself, from Ninja Warrior through to just looking ridiculous in shirtless photos and everything else in between, you are a huge part of your identity, even within the military, mate, has been your fitness. I remember seeing you again, taking over in that rotation from 17 to 18 in Afghanistan 2012. You were as wide as you were tall. I mean, that's saying something.
Yeah, that's not hard.
I couldn't identify where the chest finished and the body armor started. It was good to go. But, you've always been this hyper fit person, not just talking aesthetic fitness from, doing your flag poles on
performance based.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Gymnastics and, we've seen that. And you were actually, on set as a part of a new TV show, which we're not allowed to talk about anything more than that. But, you were selected to be one of the star players, not a challenger, but one of the staff. And then all of a sudden, during one of those sessions, the old ruptured patella tendon.
That's it.
I would like to say very quickly, it happens to the very best of us. But you managed to do it in the most spectacular of ways.
And I'm hoping that I can get mine done a bit faster than you, considering you had multiple goes at that operation.
However, mine was at a time where I was actually adjutant at 2 Commando, and it was actually a very fortunate time. I'd suffered with ongoing patella problem for a long time, and mine finally ruptured.
Yeah, there we go, patella problem. So was it tendonitis? Because that's how mine came to be. And after talking to the surgeon, it's all here or there. It depends on different professionals will tell you that tendonitis can't be healed, or it's just that it may not ever have the structure that it once did, that it goes through a process in which once it becomes tender and tendonitis, that those tissues, fibers, they just don't get back to what they ever were.
Yeah, that's it. See, mine thickened. I had everything from heart attack patches through to needling through to PRP and everything in between. But again, mine was during a time where I had the rest of the year. It happened in March. I had the rest of the year to recover and get well, and it was the perfect time to do it, dare I say, if I planned it myself.
Mine was
You were in your prime. You were filming this new thing. You were physically, ladies and gentlemen, he was at quite the performance level because he was ready for the show. We were launching Voice of a Veteran. You're doing your stuff with Camo Culture, the app. Your life was full.
Absolutely.
This is the last thing you needed.
I do need a full life in order to find out my true purpose. So it is helping people. We'll get on that later. You want to talk about the injury itself? I was peaking.
When it hit you, what happened?
You know what I did? So I was on set, and we had to stay on set, so we're there for the month. And when I did my injury, they had to carry me off, one under each arm, and I had to signal to the cameras and said that's me, that's gone, because I knew the feeling once that I'd done it to my elbow before. So after Ninja Warrior Season 1, I ruptured my long head of the tricep, it came off, and went up there and I had it surgically reattached, and it's better than my other arm. It's like the bionic arm versus my other arm.
Oh, nice.
Right? So I'd gone through that, but the process, what I'm getting at is I knew the feeling of when something lets go, like a rupture.
Yep.
And it retracted up my arm. In this one retracted my patella, my kneecap, moved. You had a full rupture. Mine was 98% of the way, but it had moved.
Who's counting?
There was enough tear there that I felt it anyway. So I felt this, shrivel up my knee.
Yep.
And then
What was that immediate thought in your head?
That's me done.
Yep. Done?
Over. Done.
Tapping out?
Yeah, well, that's like I cannot. So I was folded over an obstacle.
Yeah.
All right. I was folded over and I just had to say, hey, that's me. Carry me off.
Did it hurt physically?
No.
That's the funny thing,
No.
Yeah.
I even had a joke immediately after with the particular person that I was, out there with and was mucking around with them. I couldn't go anywhere, but I was like, hey, reaching at him and doing some funny things. So I had enough in me to be humorous, not just not in pain, but just like it's whatever, right?
It's the quick interesting part about tendons is that I remember mine popped up onto my quad and I was like, it doesn't actually hurt, but something's definitely not right. And it's more so than that mental part for guys like us where it's like, okay, crap, I'm going to be out for a while now.
Well, firstly, to get there in the first place, to be out there where I was, I may have been in shape physically because I always try and keep myself physically shape, but I wasn't conditioned to this particular sport, not the movement patterns required or anything like that.
All right. Interesting.
Because if you start doing impact work and you haven't been doing impact work, if you start doing explosive and you're not used to doing explosive, doesn't matter how strong you are sometimes or how physically fit in the form of cardiovascular or you can do damage.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's where I wasn't conditioned to a new sport, new movement, right? So I had tendonitis in the first week of filming and it was more about, Scotty, can you go on? Can you push through? Can you do whatever? And at this stage, no one else had any niggling injuries. So I was kind of like the first person to start getting niggles. And I went, you beauty, I'm in. Don't worry about it. Like, I'll go.
Yeah.
Wrap it up, push it aside and go. And it went bang.
Sure. Geez, as I talk to you here, we're talking about going from high performance to low performance physically. Yeah. We're talking about putting off injuries to not impact on operational capability. We're putting on, mindset over physicality. Mate, we'll keep going. We'll keep going.
And it was a double for me because previously to military life, I was a professional soccer player. So I went over to England and Wales. So my childhood was soccer and gymnastics at a high level. So I knew what it was to not be on the bench. Yeah. My mentality was already switched like that all the way up until I was 18, joined the army, and then did the army for 8 years, same. So yes, it was the exact same cookie cutter response that you would do in a sports or high performing job.
Got it.
So out I went, out onto the battlefield, busted, broke. And then it was immediately, okay, my questions were, okay, I've got to intel gather on this particular injury that I have. I need to write myself up for like, how long am I
Scotty was
injured for?
He was on the messages the same day. I'm like, what did it feel like? I was like, oh, getting some deja vu here. Next thing, as opposed to wanting sympathy, he's like, right, what do I do here? What do I do there?
Yeah.
It's,
Who's done it? Who's pathfinded the way for me? Who's done it to the best of their ability? Who's beaten the odds? What are the typical, recovery times? What are the, every little detail that I need? That was all happening within hours.
Researching, I like that. Intelligence prepreparation of the battle space, perhaps. Love it.
Whilst I was being zoomed to hospital to get X-rays, firstly, just to was it
again better understand
just
what was going on?
To rule out bones, and then it was MRIs. MRI, my God, I got to tell you this story about the MRI. So I went there. I'm in a straight leg brace, something that you'd get if you broke your entire leg. So it's like a long black Velcro,
Yep.
And I had that on my leg, and then I've gone to get this MRI. Both the MRI and the person doing my X-rays did this to me. When you bust your patella tendon, guys, you do not want to bend your knee at all. Okay, your patella, your quads turned into quads tendon. That same tendon that wraps around your patella is your patella tendon, and it goes down your shin, right? When you tear that is your bending mechanism, right? So I've gone to get X-rays, and what did she do? She put a wedge under my knee, right? And she had a hold of my ankle, right? And then it was her job to hold up my ankle. And I'd stressed because I'm like, I can't, it was hard enough getting on the bed in the first place. You hang on to that. What did she do? She let my ankle go and bent my leg over this wedge to get a better angle on the X-ray.
Yeah.
I think she thought I was going to kill her.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
Pain?
oh my God, pain.
By that time, the pain kicks
yelping,
in.
you know,
Yeah.
you're like a prawn trying to shoot backwards, trying to get this right leg fixed, right? And then same thing.
I have a visual, yes.
Same thing when I did the MRI. I was, because this had already happened, right? So I said, listen, this happened with my X-ray. You will not drop my leg. You and me are now a team. We're oppos. You have the bottom of my leg. I have the top. Let's get me on the bed. Anyway, what does he do?
Even as a patient, there's still a pep talk, people, all right?
What does he do? He lets it go.
Oh, my goodness.
Yep, not as far, because I was standing this one, not as bad as angle, but still enough for me to look at him like, okay, now you're food.
Good. So
anyway.
we went through injury, then we went through torture. But tell me, you know, there's a lot of physical stuff to this, and you know, you and I and most people are actually pretty good with physical pain. But the issue with guys like ourselves, and particularly you, mate, you know, you're a fitness expert, a fitness coach, a performance coach. You know, you've competed at high levels of sport. The whole time in your mind, you're knowing what impact this is going to have on you. You're knowing that, you know, one, you're not back on that show tomorrow. Through to two, this is going to affect your training regime. Like, talk me through that,
So
the mental injury that's coming.
The first one was there was some depression, absolutely immediate depression around not being on the show anymore, because also being someone who's, you know, I've fought hard before to find an identity. And then I've built an identity around that with my business and other things, and I've had them burnt to the ground with different business partners, with business failings, with, you know, trust into humans that end up being shitty humans regardless of their capability. You've been burnt before, so you have to rebuild, you have to restart, you have to redo it again. And I'm someone that's happy to pick myself up and go again, but it all has its toll, right? So coming into this was a bit of a shining light of a bit of a future, a bit of an identity, something I could build around, because if this was going off after season after season after season, this could be something really cool. It really floats my boat, hence the reason I've said, yeah, I'll do it. So then to be in and then to be out, right? And not only out, Jenna is on this show too.
Yep.
And to be around her because we're both on the set. So I opted to stay on set.
Yep.
I opted to find a role within the team without the other guys that were permanently there on set, and become the leader within the group if I could. Yep. With all due respect to everybody, I didn't put myself as like I'm the boss, but I was like, what can I do to better the team's performance on camera? How can I talk to them? For two reasons. One, it was helping my depression.
Yep.
I had to find purpose immediately.
I'm going to jump on this. You, in a flash of a moment, lost the purpose. That was the mission. That was the show. That was everything else in your life. And straight away, that purpose went to yourself. And when we're left with that purpose just being ourselves, that's when the depression, everything else started to trickle back in. So you immediately sought to get that layer of resiliency back. And you didn't have the mission. You made your mission the team, the men, others.
Others.
You try to put that extra layer of resilience up there.
Yeah.
You know, the purpose outside of self is actually what is needed, because when purpose is just self, particularly in a state where you're not physically capable or mentally capable, or at least injured, that's where these things start bubbling to the surface.
Absolutely. So that was life for the next 3 weeks. Yep. 3 weeks of living in a hotel and being on set was to support, first and foremost, Jenna, because she was in my space. We were sharing the same hotel room, and that was someone I was speaking to regularly. And then the team, and as much as I could. And I was doing more hours if I could than the team, because there was broken up in different time slots, male and female, and I wanted to be there for everybody. Absolutely. Right? So I got myself an electric scooter to assist myself getting around faster, so I could be more efficient. but I was being very smart, because I know I didn't have anything to land on. I had a shit leg, but that enabled me to go back and forth to, you know, on and off set and get what I needed to get done, which was, you know, pulling guys aside and doing whatever I could to be a part of the team and a part of the mix, and keep myself a part of the show too, because part of my identity was still there regardless of not being on it. I'm like, what about season 2?
I was going to say, this is identity. We've already touched on purpose, and now it's identity. You know, your identity to everyone on that show, the reason why you were selected on that show, also your social media, everything else in between. At that point in time, your identity was that, and you were actually trying to use this to help really change or modify or increase your identity as well. And all of a sudden, that's gone as well. And this is also within a hyper competitive alpha style culture within, you know, super high performing athletes and individuals. And all of a sudden, where you're being measured on your physical performance in these tasks, and next thing, that entire part of your identity is taken away from you. So you're immediately looking to default back to your level of training, which is your expertise in being effective and efficient in teamwork and leadership and supporting others, which is great to see. That's where we talk about, the military process, defaulting back to your level of training. It's great to know that you already have that. But we're going through a loss of purpose and then combined with a loss of identity, and very immediately putting that back outside yourself. But I'm really interested to see that when it then gets quiet, mate, and you don't have those extrinsic motivators and layers of resilience, and you're there with, like you said, Jenna on the show every day and then dealing with these people every day. How is that affecting you?
I couldn't just let the, just me supporting the team and living outside of myself. That wasn't everything I needed to be strong enough. The depression was still really, like every single day I had to fight not being it, because I'm still in the space. I'm still watching everybody else do what I could have been doing. And as the show itself was unfolding and new things were becoming, as the directors were finding new cool ways to do stuff and all these really kick-ass ideas were coming to the forefront of their mind, I was like, that was every one of those cool ideas was a fucking kick in the nuts for me, because it was like, we're going to do this and it's going to be the best show ever. You're not on it. That's my immediate head. This is going to be amazing. You're not on it. Like, this wasn't them saying it, but my mind's going, yes, this is great, but I'm not a part of it anymore. So just being a part of the team was enough. What I really had to do was zero in on season 2. I cast out my mind as far as I could, and I genuinely started living as if I was already starring on season 2, and that this would only build my character story up on driving through an injury.
Do you think that is the best thing for you in hindsight?
It was at the time, because I guess I was in survival mode, at that point, and my survival mechanisms did the most powerful techniques that I knew how to do, and I think I've picked them all pretty well. Okay,
good. Because, from the outside looking in, I got to see, the definite initial shock of the injury through to you immediately asking me everything I knew about this. Through to even a spark in your creativity, looking for other things that how you could support with some of the things I had going on and whatnot, and then throwing yourself into this. So I see a lot of immediate external support, external actions, trying to put those buffers in place for you. And I'm just so keen to you were incredible, your ability to reinvent yourself. And, on this podcast, on the Voice of a Veteran podcast, we are going to speak with a lot of people to help draw out some of these extremely relevant stories for veterans, but also for all people who listen to this, because we're talking about transitions in life. Transitions in life aren't always just transition from one career to the next. Transitions in life can be from a relationship. They can be from
injury,
high impact injury like this. Any of those times where there is some form of a physical or mental change that invokes a mental reaction, a physical or mental change that invokes an emotional reaction, and that's where we start to become destabilized, and we start talking about things like anxiety, depression, and actually what is mental health, mental fitness, our mental fitness. These are the conversations I want to have with you. So while you were so fantastic at pivoting, re-engaging, researching, supporting, putting up those layers of resilience to keep yourself well protected, how did it go with you during your own quiet times away from that external affirmation?
I really hated anything quiet time. So it wasn't always
stay busy
going. You weren't always there, and there was days off, for example. And yeah, that part sucked. Like any day, and I was trying to avoid it. As you can imagine, staying in a hotel room, it was as if being locked up in a hotel room during the day by yourself, injured, all that sort of stuff. What I did keep away from the immediate, from the get-go, was the drugs associated with the injury. I stayed well aware of that, just having awareness around what those particular painkillers and things can do to someone's mindset and beyond. So I stayed the F away from those.
Yep, gotcha.
Did myself a favour there.
Which you knew from your own personal experience with injury beforehand. That was that. We're not sitting here condoning people not to listen to their doctor's prescriptions.
No, definitely not like that.
Also having complete awareness as opposed to complete trust.
Yeah, and only having it when necessary. Like when they give you the strongest painkillers that they can, and they give you clear instructions on how to take it. A lot of the time those clear instructions are not to take them until the pain is unbearable, or before unbearable, but it's on its way there and you can tell. So not just eating them like Skittles because they're there.
Yeah, understood.
But the after effects is what I had to be, I just had to be super careful about knowing myself, having been through depression before, on and off, cycling around, that this was a huge threat for me, and I didn't need to amplify it or pull fuel on the fire with associated drugs that, painkillers that have an effect of depression after it.
Very good. No, really, really key takeaway. It's so key that you have that experience from beforehand, and it's just, I guess, advice to other people potentially in that situation is to, again, speak to others who've had some of that lived experience. And
tell you what was extremely hard. You talk about quiet time, and that depression was leaving the show in total.
Yeah.
Because we were in Sydney the entire time.
Yeah.
And then when I went back to Canberra, and what was good, not good, was the fact that other people at this stage, because everybody lost set and everybody left set, and we had a shared group chat on WhatsApp, is that everyone was going through depression at this state, because that's what happens after you leave something so exciting and something so thrill-seeking and energetic, is that everyone's on this uber low.
Transitions within transitions.
Right.
Wow, look at this.
And it wasn't just me at this stage. These guys weren't going through injury, but just most post-set depression, and I was going through post-set depression, injury depression, so I had like a superset going on. But
loss of community. Here we go. Loss of community as well. That supporting culture that was around you. I'm sure while you were on the set and you trying to find your value through your love language acts of service, really supporting and fostering that culture would have been that force field around you, protecting you as well. But
exactly. So
then losing that, and you can't maintain culture through WhatsApp,
well,
can
it
you?
works both ways, because we learning this lesson that we're talking about now from leaving one environment, but you can also go the other way in putting yourself in an environment that is surrounding you with the things that you need to be more positive.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you know one way, it goes back the other. So it's just like, okay, if I throw myself in around these people, around this environment who are doing whatever, I can keep myself occupied and doing healthier habits and all these other things that the environment has included in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going back to choose your own adventure life, you're your own businessman.
Yeah.
You're living in your own home. You this, that, the other. It was just like, now what? You know what I mean? Now what? Now that even that thought of me going on to the best version of season 2, like you guys will have no idea what you're going to see turn up on season 2, like I'm going to be an animal after this thing, going, that doesn't even sound that exciting as much anymore, because I'm not in the environment.
Yep. So what about, we talked a lot about, again, this purpose, season 2 and whatnot. Let's talk about the purpose that was the recovery of Scotty Evennett. Talk to me about how you went and formulated that plan, how you derived value from that plan, and where you drew inspiration for those actions as well.
Awesome. So I drew knowledge from past experience through injury, and knowing that I've halved healing times before due to, and this you've got to be intelligent around this, is treating it as if it wasn't injured. So my mentality is it's not injured. I'm good to go. Obviously, I'm not using it. Okay. I'm not using this particular limb, but I'm going to the gym in the same time, same habits, same everything. I'm training around it.
As in routine, like you're not injured. Not as in the limb isn't injured.
No, as in everything else.
You're not injured, you just have an injury.
Including my internal script. So my dialogue does not change to, victim mentality towards this leg. I don't let this leg affect the rest of my body and my brain.
Yep.
I am completely fine. Not only am I fine, if they were asking me how I was in the lobby, for example, I'm like, I'm fucking unstoppable. How are you?
Yes, truth be told, every time we try to help Scott carry a bag or do anything, it's like, what, you want a piggyback?
Exactly.
So, there's a key point to note there. I mean, mate, you have a very unique personality whereby your positivity, 1, is infectious, but 2, is incredibly resilient. And there are a lot of people who would be sitting here and that's not achievable to them. That's absolutely aspirational to them. But I think the key takeaway for me there is it's that mentality piece whereby you have an injury, but you are not injured. Correct. And this is, again, delineating physical, mental, and emotional health and fitness. You have a physical injury. And where we see people fall off the wagon is when you start linking emotion directly to that, which you can't help, be that pain or be that, loss of purpose, identity, plans that you had scheduled. And that's where it starts to, that emotional injury starts to link in and affect your mental health. And what you've done is able to apply through experience, and your own fantastic developed resilience as well as proactive resilience, is your ability to then mitigate that and keep that at the physical level and just be aware of your mental and emotional state.
The awareness around that becomes to your emotions, right? I want my emotions attached to the future vision of myself. I don't want my emotions attached to the current or history, right? My history. So if my history is injured, if my history says all these, how I did the injury, what I've lost, all this sort of stuff, I don't want my emotions attached to those thoughts of that. I want my emotions attached to what's yet to come, like what's next for me, the exciting future that I'm going to have post-injury, the mental development I'm going to have by, changing up my routine to, structurally go around this broken limb or whatever it is. Like they're all positive thoughts. They're all positive emotions rather than negative thoughts and negative emotions. So the sooner you can switch on to the new and exciting future, and you've got to line those things up in front of you in order to see that. Some people really struggle. I get that with visualization and casting out to be able to see that, but that's something I've never struggled with. So that aggressive positivity that you talk about me having is because...
Assertive positivity.
It's fucking aggressive. Is because... I do see it clearly. I have a good, imagination, and I can totally see, and not only see but feel what my future is going to be. So I can quickly offset and override any negativity.
Gotcha. No, that's it. I mean, that's even my headspace in the military space is my ability to plan and contingency plan, continuously thinking forward, going through and visualizing and going through activities or possible and plausible actions, planning for the worst, hoping for the best, and that's what makes us so ready and prepared. But the gap that I'm missing here, Scotty, is, we don't like to look back. We like to look a lot forward. What about here and now? How does it go here and now? What about those times when the plan that you had planned didn't happen, or when you can't put in those mental targets for the tomorrow and the next day? I love the daily renewable contract, this day moving forward, but what about this day? And, when those walls close in, when some of those emotions get that flood to you, what did you do and what do you do?
First thing I would do is, I think for me, music. For me, music is huge. So like it can start from bed, right? Okay. Regardless, I don't like to turn over, grab my phone and get onto social media. I've done that.
Oh, here we go. Done that. We got some routine coming into place. Take notice, ladies and gentlemen. Good.
I think no matter who you're speaking to, at what level or what severity of injury or whatever you're talking about, in the end, we're all human.
Absolutely.
Right? And that human...
It's easy to forget that, isn't
walks, talks, eats, shits, does everything the same. So
successes and failures.
Right, exactly. So if I need to improve my mental health, I still need to go through a, system check. Right? And I think leaning over from bed, because if you're going to start a day, if you're going to get technical, I start my day the night before. But...
Left or right side of the bed?
If you're looking at it, I'm the right.
This one makes an L. The right? Got it.
Yeah. No, but I'm like, but if you're laying in it, it's my left.
I'm just visualizing. Well, I'm not visualizing.
Here we go.
Sorry, but leaning. No. So you're leaning over. You're leaning over to the bed. Don't grab your phone. What are we doing?
Well, I do, but what I was saying is that when I grab my phone, most people go, "Oh yeah, I've been shown or taught not to grab my phone because of social media." I'm very good at just getting the music cranking.
Okay, good.
All right.
Yep.
Now, the music that I particularly play, a lot of it Jen doesn't like. All right, lately anyway, because it's changed. That's a very good point. It's changed because the particular vision that you can create for yourself in that future, believe it or not, has an entire set of environmental factors, right? So, like, if we just go, hey, the vision of a doctor, someone might automatically think of how that particular role would live, what they drive, how they present themselves, what they wear. Whatever, right? So when you have this picture of yourself and your future and that's just being created because of this new injury, it's a quite fresh thing. The music that I need to listen to get me on track and moving forward is exactly that. So if I need to toughen the fuck up a bit,
theme songs,
the music is going to tell me to do that. That's my point, is that if it's silent, you'll hear a lot of the negativity that you tell yourself.
Gotcha.
Right? Block the silence immediately with a forward proactive move of positivity in the form of music.
Good.
Bang. So I'm off to the toilet, for example, if I'm not making the bed, whatever, won't get into details or routine.
I was going to say, we don't need to know about the toilet. It's good.
No, but you go into the bathroom, what I'm saying is that the music's playing.
Gotcha. Yep.
Right? And then it's, the music I've been playing lately it's actually been theme songs around special forces shows and bits and pieces that if you see the clips on YouTube and
former inspirations in your life.
Exactly.
Love it. Okay.
And reattachments to positive times in my life that I've trained for selection, and I was training myself to be a machine and an unstoppable and unbreakable machine. So those particular tunes that I'd played in my past that had set me up for success in that moment,
emotional hooks.
I'm playing them again.
Good. So what we're basically doing is revisiting terrain that has already provided you with success. There's nothing wrong with not reinventing the wheel and defaulting back to those. Great, like it. Okay.
Yep. And a lot of that. So that's music. getting me going, and then physical activity. So again, being injured, it's important. I can do push-ups.
Yep.
Right? I can do sit-ups. I can do things that don't involve my leg. So for me, doing a set of each of those before I jump in the cold shower immediately.
Get it?
And
so finding the why, not the why not. Sorry. Finding what you can do, not what you can't do. I like that. Good to go.
Yep. And these are all just why these little processes are important, including we missed or skipped making the bed, but that's in there first before I even leave the bedroom, is because these are all wins, man. These are all like victories that I get to clock up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Victory.
Tangible achievements.
With minimal distractions. It's very important, even if you're living with someone, you have to minimize the distractions and minimize their input into your very important morning routine until you get into that place where you're like, you've got a bit of a shield up, you've got a bit of confidence, and no matter what they sort of bring to the table, you can still approach that from a positive light. I think if you're being
so interesting, yeah.
I think if you're being steered into someone else's morning routine and platform or whatever, and you're not stable yourself, you're in a point where you need to rebuild yourself and your confidence or whatever, it only goes downhill from there for me. It takes so much longer for me to...
I find that actually so interesting because, as we've already discovered, like myself, your love language is acts of service. So I am so readily influenced by anyone who I wake up with in the morning. I'm not saying there's a lot of but someone that I'm around, like first thing in the morning, and as soon as I wake up, I'm, thinking from, hey, not to wake up the other person, through to, does someone need me on my phone? But you're actually saying in sort of a contradiction of that, or not even a contradiction of that, it's actually a very interesting capability that you've been able to identify during these times, that is what is important to you. Or is that still the regular constant? You have now built within this discipline yourself that your morning routine is you, and that's what you need so you can be best for everyone else.
And not just morning routine, I think you build yourself. You need to focus on yourself and build yourself. The supporting assets assist in they help you go in the direction that you've chosen. This is my point. If you've chosen the direction and you've chosen who you are and who you want to be, the very best version of yourself, whether it's not there already, this person has to help you, like support you get in that direction, not pull you in another.
Got you. So I think there's a key delineation there where I often fall down is I actually put too much of my purpose in that other person or in that team, whereas it's actually maintaining what the higher purpose is, the mission. And then when you know why you're doing what you're doing, the how in between, in particular, how you're working with and engaging with the people around you is always back to that authentic purpose and has helped to be aligned with that. And where you can actually vary is when you try and put it too much into those individuals. So that's a really key point. I know I'm actually just saying this because you're actually just really cementing it in my own head. And every now and then when I feel like I'm feeling neglected or I'm feeling like I'm not getting out of as much people as I feel like I'm putting into them, the question is like, well, why are you over investing? Is this in line with your purpose? And if it is, then those conversations to help people align with you should be free flowing. And if they're not, then you're probably the one that's in the wrong.
Correct. Well, correct. You would have done this, right? You've over invested into someone before, right? Maybe even a couple of times or like a couple of different people. Mm-hmm. And you get to a point where you have to rebuild yourself. You've lost your identity. It's now shared identity. You've lost, parts of your purpose. It's a shared purpose, right? And the best version of you to help to turn up in that environment needs to be built by you.
Absolutely.
Heston, built by Heston, doing Heston's, turning up to support is the best Heston I need.
Yeah, absolutely. It almost feels selfish, but even again, in the way that you've explained it, the more you're investing in yourself as the core to the capability block, that foundation, is actually the more you're going to enable not only that process, but all you encounter along the way. So even, coming out of relationships, I've sort of thought about how I just need to be selfish with myself, but it's actually not. It's just actually catching up on personal investment. And the key thing that you're helping those listening to take away is that actually has to be a part of your daily routine. We focus so much on routine about, getting up, doing this, working out, or, you can go through all these elements to make up a healthy body, healthy mind, healthy heart. But the whole thing is, why you're doing all those things and then realizing what you need in order to achieve that. Yeah,
well, I know better than anyone else, mate, that because it's who I am. I love to help others. I love to support others, and I will continue to overreach in a way that I just give too much sometimes, and that's okay if the version of me is strong enough to take it.
And that's how you feel value. You're actually pouring value into yourself. So yeah, I get it.
But like I said, I've made the mistake sometimes of giving that to someone or starting the process of giving that to someone and not being personally in the best position I can, mentally, stably, whatever, and you end up letting the person down.
Yeah, understood.
Do you know what I mean?
And
so
your own expectations.
You have to then, So it took multiple times of this throughout my life to figure out that, hey, Scotty needs to build Scotty. He needs to have a clear vision of who he is and what he's capable of and be confident in that person. And then that guy can go and deliver some value to someone else.
Got it. Understood. So I want to touch on one final love language in this conversation. That's sort of words of affirmation. And, we've spoken a lot about our significant other and partners, but you have a pretty public profile, mate. And particularly with this loss of identity, loss of purpose, and the way in which that is readily transmitted and consumed by those on social media and whatnot. That's sort of another factor. That's another part of your personality where, not only living in it in the moment, there's also this digital Scotty Evennett that is going through this loss of purpose, loss of identity, and then that communication and engagement with those on that platform. Like how did that support or detract?
I find this extremely difficult because good business, if you're talking business models and marketing, you need to stay consistent. Right? You need to stay consistent. So if you're personally changing your identity, even slightly, that being reflected on your social media platform, if it's got changes and your audience aren't ready or don't give a fuck about those changes, you can't post it. Or you can, but this is saying there's business and then what you want to do.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So good business says, hey, stick to fitness, Scotty. I'm following the fitness Scott Evennett and the mindset military Scott Evennett. Fuck off with your fashion, mate. I don't want to see your fashion blogs and bits and pieces because I'm following you for your fitness. Yet fashion is a huge part of my life and it's identity that people are yet to see the true hunger that I have in the fashion world, right? But I haven't. If I started doing that with my current audience on social media, it wouldn't be much appreciated or it might not be seen as a good thing. Like I wouldn't get much engagement, right?
Yep.
Yet it could be the very most important thing that I'm working on. And the fitness thing could be well and truly on a backseat, whether it's being injured or being not. So how does that reflect on my social media? You've got to recreate a whole new...
So I'm going to challenge you. I reckon up until 2020, that's definitely where we're at as a society with the superficiality, this expected messaging, this bite-sized comprehension that we needed consistency in our marketing. And that is marketing 101. I want to stick to that. But we're now sort of approaching that period in 2020 where, there's less movie stars, there's less... reality or lack thereof TV shows and things like this focusing on superficialities, and I really feel a lot of people are starting to appreciate the value of authenticity and genuine people. And I have reinvented myself a few times on social media as well, and it's actually, I think we become a bit overprotective of people in general, and particularly when we start talking about audiences, and we actually niche ourselves too much, whereas people want to see the true and authentic you. And truth be told, those who can keep up will keep up, are the people that you want to keep up.
Absolutely. There's a few things here. I love that you've said this because, right, what I want my profile to be is an absolute reflection of that authenticity and the things that I truly love to do and who I am and my messages that I believe will help people, because that's me as a giver and I love to serve. And that's what my page will reflect. And if you want to view that, you'll view that, and that's all I care about.
Yeah, because you can imagine, we're dealing with also Australian society, tall poppy cutting syndrome is out there with a vengeance. And there'd be people watching your social media be like, haha, I knew I was going to catch up to him one day. He's pushed himself too hard. Through, let's see how he falls off and turns into a fat blob and all this. Through to people like, oh wow, this guy that I really look up to is injured. Like, what's he going to do? How's he going to rebuild from here? And, there's also your ability to utilize that digital presence to help hold yourself accountable. So I'm very keen to go through that mentality and mindset with you.
Absolutely. And I've actually failed in that before in saying that, hey guys, stay tuned during this section here, because in this mind that I've currently told you to stay tuned in, this is my plan, and only have that readily change and then go, oh shit, you didn't have to stay tuned. I wish I didn't say stay tuned because I've changed my tune.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
but that's potentially because you're again trying to project yourself forward as opposed to being there in that moment.
For sure. So what you'll see now, if you were right on my social media today and over the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks or more, is like a steady decline of posting. What I actually have been doing in the background, I've been very busy creating it to begin in January 1 all the way through to, so my 2021 year has been planned of the very best and newest version of myself and all my passions and authenticity. Yep. I really have grown into my own skin over the last whatever, through trial and error and through fucking on the battlefield out here.
Yeah.
And now I'm so comfortable with where I'm going, and I'm so passionate about where I'm going that it's going to reflect that as of 2021, because I'm just getting 3 months ahead social media wise.
Good on you, mate. Good on you.
Yeah.
And what about engagement with your audience? How have you found people react? Have you heard the tall poppy cutters come out? Have you had people coming out and support? What's that been like?
In my career?
No.
Or lately?
We want to talk lately. It's also key to like help people understand some of the demographic and culture and what they're seeing coming through.
What I've had is a small part of mostly my audience supports me in doing whatever. So they reach out to see how I'm going, even like inboxing, right? Not commenting, but just, Scotty, how you going? How's the injury? What's the updates, mate? Are you back on, your training yet, or da-da-da?
Yep.
If they haven't been watching it, that's been primarily it. Yeah, not a whole lot of change really, because what happens is when you stop posting frequently, you get less and less engagement. So you get less and less messages coming through. The key topics of late have actually been around voice of a veteran.
Gotcha. Yep.
Right. And the topics within that, not so much my physical ability or injury or whatever. The people who care, and funny enough, who cares, because they're the ones that are talking to you still.
Very true. How's that going, actually taking up your time? You haven't been overwhelmed with...
I have in the past.
Yeah.
Definitely have in the past. And I think you're getting...
well, that's what I was going to say, mate.
A dose of that now,
love all of them to pieces, and it's what sometimes gets me out of bed personally in the day, but it's also a huge responsibility, because if people take the time to write to you, you want to write back to them, and it's some pressure you can put on yourself, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You find creative ways. Funny enough, the fastest way, and I see you actually doing it with your text messages, is recording into the phone so you can get it done quicker and efficiently, which I love, because for me, I've never done that with my text messages as such, but I used to do it all the time with my social media. And you can, if you could ask my audience, that I used to do that in video form and in voice form as replies, because you're getting so many. But best part about that is you can't beat authenticity when it's your voice or when it's your face and someone wants to know a question and they didn't expect like this person to come back with a real voice message for you saying, hey man, yeah, I'll let you know about that.
So 2020 has been a year of evolution as far as a human species and our personal psyche, and back to some of our cultural values and personal values, and innovation. That's a little bit of innovation here and there. But where to from here, mate? How much longer have you got in your recovery? Talk us through what's going on.
I am 7 weeks post-operation now. There was a lot. It was all. If you read up on patella surgery, that it's like 12 weeks around proper weight bearing and this, that, and the other. Like it's fair substantial. So I'm 7 weeks and I'm back.
You did have the fantastic bulletproof bloody brace on it, and now
that was gold.
You're bending, and
yeah, that was really good. So I had to get 90 degrees within the 6 week mark. I got that. My surgeon's fantastic, and he's told me to have an aggressive recovery. I'm on the bike now. I'm just spinning, just cycling over my leg. It's just got enough bend in it.
For people who don't understand, with the patella, you can imagine, it's over the front of your knee, like Scotty said, from the quad all the way down to the shin. And, when you rupture that, they've got to attach it back together, and there's natural shorting there. And then the leg has to be kept straight for a long time in order for it to heal. And when you don't use something, particularly like a tendon, things tighten up and the muscles atrophy around it as well. So half the battle has been actually bending the leg again, and it hurts. For those out there who have going through, or forever find themselves in a position where they've got an injury, they've had surgery, it's now shorter, and you have to get mobility back in it. For example, I've just intertwined it with my life, and that's why I got that bionic looking leg cast. Is because I could control the degrees in which I could bend my leg. So every time I was sitting down on the computer, which I would do a lot of, I would have my leg gradually each time I'd sit further on the seat, and my leg would bend. Walking up the stairs, any little practice that I could do, I would. And that way I didn't have to put dedicated time, which I struggle like most. If you ask them, hey, do you stretch? Do you keep yourself mobile, or do you just hit the gym? Most people hit the gym and they fuck off the stretching part. Yep.
Because putting aside an extra 15 minutes plus to get your mobility happening, those who are doing it right have probably hit a major injury before.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
you injure yourself and then you go, it's so important. Why did I pay that off? And then you realize. So
Well, there's a couple of really key takeaways that I want people to take from here. You know, we and you and I, unfortunately, are able to speak to a lot of, and you're in so much more depth, and it's really impressive listening, hearing how, one, prepared you are for the current and even future injury, and two, the mechanisms that we can take away for those listening. But particularly for those who are listening to this who haven't gone through an injury themselves, or a friend of them hasn't gone through an injury themselves, like, as a part of the proactive support to each other and proactive mental health, you know, we can sustain a lot of physical damage, but it's actually the mental health and emotional health decline that impacts us from these things. And from, like you said, operating like you're not injured, you just have an injury, and making sure you have that detachment of that emotion from that physical and mental aspects therein. But even if you are someone who has a friend who's gone through an injury, or you are yourself, and appreciate that you don't have that personal motivation, you want to sit there on the couch and recover in your own way, just appreciate that, you know, that's what the actual person is probably going through in the head. And the best thing you can do is actually reach out and support them, and not in a forceful way. Particularly when we're injured, we're extremely defensive. But there's so many things that I want people to take away from this conversation with Scott that they can apply to themselves, but in the essence of this, potentially apply to someone else in their life, not here and now, but in the future, should these circumstances come about. That's what we do. We're fantastic at contingency planning. And even though you might be listening to this particular episode of our podcast and be like, I've never had an injury, I never plan to have that, this is where we are starting to build, and we're going to build with our community, some layers of that resilience, whereby some of these key takeaways, if they're not there for you, take them on board potentially for the team or the mission that you might have coming up. And that you might be able to apply to that, because the more you have this in your head when it comes to fruition or it comes to event, you'll be more prepared than you were if you weren't.
this is something I find hard to fathom when supporting people. Tell me, when you find something truly life-changing, something that has the potential to be life-changing, to do with your health or whatever, who's the first people that you share it with? Family,
Absolutely.
right? You send it to your sister, you send it to your mum, you send it to your dad. You do everything in your power to send the right information to the right people to better their life, right? That is the reflection of my freaking social media, because anything that I've found in my life to be helpful, I want to tell the world about. I care about everybody. I want everybody to have the best health possible. And I find it hard sometimes when people find this information and then just keep it to themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just like, dude,
That's like
how many
competitiveness.
things do you get off me where I'm sharing shit? I'm like, I see it, I read it, I hear it, I'm like, share. I share crazy.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the whole thing as well. You know, this is where you and I probably fall down, is like sharing for or doing things like that for a purpose with expectation back. That's a part I really had to think about and learn, is, you know, releasing people of expectations, because those expectations are actually what you're only putting on yourself. Because if someone doesn't follow through on them, you're still left carrying the same expectations. Anyway, Scotty, look, there has been a lot in this session, and I really want people to listen back through this and have some key takeaways. Is there anything else you really want to pass on as your final little golden nugget?
I think just around belief systems, right? Some people just don't believe in themselves. So it doesn't matter what challenge you're faced with, it's just that belief system. And I think you can empower your belief system by just doing a bit of research and reach out.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people don't self-help from the very first thing. It's like, you often hear us in the Special Forces community talk about like working the issue, working the problem. Like, what is it? Work it out. Like, by identifying it and asking yourself, okay, I'm going to work this problem out, already you're positive. You've taken a negative to a positive. It's just like a switch.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing is a very extremely condensed period of, you know, basically what is the result of, you know, the life that has been Scotty Evennett and so many other people, particularly in Special Forces world, with a level of training that selects people with the right character attributes and then is able to bolt on the additional requirements and continue to develop things like emotional intelligence, physical, mental and emotional resilience. But sort of key takeaways, particularly in this day and age, is that, and as per every Special Forces mission, we never launched out on a mission without days and days of research, planning and intelligence. You know, intelligence preparation of the battle space, and particularly in the 21st century where we are here and now, the ability to jump on and Google anything. But first and foremost, you can't just always rely on everything you read on the Google. It's actually also then reaching out to and utilizing things like social media as a resource and not being afraid to ask for help. Posting something on and saying, hey, I've just had this injury, you know, any information here, please. While that might be difficult, you know, we need to start breaking down some of the stigma of these things, because imagine you sitting there Googling it yourself, trying to research this, while also concurrently putting it out there, acknowledging that you don't have all the information requirements, being vulnerable, not being weak, and all of a sudden there might be 1, 2, or 1,000 people actively researching that for you. And then that's the one thing, even in the last few weeks, while we've been sitting here trying to take on changes at the top level of government, actually stepping back, appreciating we need help, asking people to help, tens of thousands of people's writing to their senators and to their elected politicians. The same thing works, activating and supporting each other through a common and authentic purpose, such as helping someone recover from an injury or whatever it is. Let's really think about how we can work to and support each other and be willing to do so and be smart about being better.
Absolutely. And just a reminder that there are guys, many, many, many other guys and girls out there like us who genuinely love helping people, right? But I don't know you need help until you ask for help. And I have to look in the mirror when I say that, because I'm not one to ask for help the most. Yet if I were to ask for help, there are a lot of people out there who care about me,
Absolutely.
who would have done what you just said and actively helped me, sourced information to help me. And I was surrounded by it when I did my injury. And it's the same here. So ask for help, and then be one of those people when if you're asked for help, you fucking do it.
Absolutely. Proactive and reactive. Asking for help, be willing to ask for help, but at the same time, taking some of those key getaways and making sure for those people you actually care about or you think you want to care about you, keeping enough awareness in their life. So when you hear about any of these transitions, and that's what we're talking about, transitions in physical performance, mental performance, emotional performance, be ready to provide proactive support and assistance. Cool.
Alrighty, thank you very much,
Scotty. That was great.
Questions.
So many golden nuggets. Stay tuned next time. I don't know what's coming, but I'm sure it's going to be good.
I'm probably going to flip the script and get him.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Ciao. Thanks for listening to the Voice of a Veteran podcast. We really hope that there were some key takeaways that might help you, be they relatable, be they aspirational, but we're not just here for your entertainment. So please make sure you remember, move on and action from here.
And that's it, guys. If you've heard something here today that has truly helped you, it's our duty to share that information with as many as we can. Support is about being proactive, and that's taking action to better our own lives as well as the lives as many mates as we can.
We love your support getting these messages out, so please subscribe, go to our YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Voice of a Veteran. Catch you next time.
See ya.